The thing about nature is that you can't really recreate it. There's something different about being out here.
You've said on the stage that you didn't think video in a small device like that made sense.
You're always fighting things that are opposed to each other. So as an example, let's take the PlayStation Portable, right? Great game machine, but it's not such a great music player. And there's many reasons for that, but the biggest reason is it doesn't fit in your pocket. And so you can do video on these devices if you want to, but the things that are suboptimal about it are the screen size, so it fits in your pocket, and the battery life, and things like that. The fundamental problem here is that headphones are a miraculous thing. You put on a pair of headphones, and you get the same experience you get with a great pair of speakers, right? There's no such thing as headphones for video, right? There's not something I carry with me that I can put on, and it gives me the same experience I get when I'm watching my 50-inch plasma display at home. And until somebody invents that, you're going to have these opposing constraints.
Well, they have those huge goggles you can wear.
But they're lousy.
Probably wondering why I came up to a mountain to talk about Apple Vision Pro. The reason why is because I've spent the last 2 weeks thinking about and talking about how spatial computing is, in my eyes, a profound shift in the way we think about our computing environment and what we do with computers. I've talked about how spatial computing centers the apps and how placing apps in the real world is a different experience and more profound than this simple change that it actually took to get there. Now, the technology to get there, we've learned, is astounding. It's amazing. It's impressive. The device is imperfect, about a 1.0. We've learned that Apple rolls. They like to start with a core 1.0 and improve and improve and improve from there until it becomes so obvious that we don't even question it. But if spatial computing is all about apps, there's also another thing I've been talking about in the last couple of weeks, which is the developer story for Apple Vision Pro, and how it's not very compelling and how big names are already skipping out. And after trying Apple Vision Pro on, I found out that the app story on it is just as I feared. It's not just the big developers that are opting out. It's the small developers too. And the small developers are the ones that are going to make or break this thing, at least in my eyes. In the past, that's almost always been the case. They were what created the spreadsheet, VisiCalc for the Apple II. They are the ones that created the desktop publishing industry for the Mac. And they're the ones that developed for the App Store and made the iPhone an anything device that you could carry with you anywhere. Yes, Apple played a huge role in every one of those devices. Obviously, there's a reason they are a through line in this story. But developers have always played an equally, if not more important role alongside them. So, I brought two computers with me today, my iPad and Apple Vision Pro. My iPad I have used as my portable, out-in-the-world computer for 4 years now. I've used it kind of that way for almost a decade, since my high school days, actually over a decade when I started taking notes on it. It is in many ways my ultimate in-the-world productivity device. Apple Vision Pro, I hope, can become that for me. But it's got some really core issues, starting with developers, that may prevent us from getting there. Let's go ahead and start with my iPad. I got this thing in 2020 because I wanted to replace my 2015 MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro I'd used all through college. I had used it for editing and programming, and it was just on its last legs. It had like less than an hour of battery life. I didn't want to replace the battery in it because it was getting old and it was getting slow, and it wasn't working that much anymore. So I needed a new computer because I was teaching in New York. And so I wanted a device that was really flexible at the time. And the iPad just felt perfect. I love that you could get this Magic Keyboard. I love that it had a pencil. I love that I could use Safari in a desktop class. It felt like the right device to get at the time. I was teaching, and so I was commuting 2 hours back and forth on the train from my job, and I wanted a device that felt like it was kind of made to be used in the world, and the iPad felt flexible in that way. Then COVID hit, and it needed to be even more flexible than that. I needed to be able to go to a park and sit down and be out of my room and let the world give me inspiration and let the iPad be the thing that captured my inspiration. My phone worked fine. My Mac did a little bit of work, but the iPad was the perfect device for me then because it gave me the flexibility to capture that inspiration whenever I felt it strike and then move on from there. But that wasn't it. It also needed to be powerful enough for me to use it for my work. I needed to be able to present on it. I needed to be able to do grades, send emails, calendar, do my to-do list. It needed to both be flexible and powerful, and it was. And that was all because of the apps. Now, there were great examples of first-party apps that Apple made that made it so that it was feasible as a device in its own. Safari is one that really comes to mind as a great example of that. I had to use Safari all the time for grading, for Google Docs, for everything like that. But there were plenty of other small indie apps that just elevated my experience beyond that. I think of GoodNotes, Fantastical, OmniFocus, Todoist. I could go on and on and on. It was the developers that made this the device that was as flexible and as powerful as I needed it to be. Apple got a long way there, but the other developers, the third-party developers, filled in the gaps for me. Now, as I have moved out of that position, the iPad has only continued being flexible and powerful for me. In fact, I use it to write the notes for these videos. I use it to change the description and do some of the uploading of my videos to YouTube. I use it for previewing and things like that. And many of those things are, again, done through Safari or done through Photos, done through first-party apps. But my writing, the core of the work that I do, is done in third-party apps, in apps like Ulysses or Obsidian or DevonThink. These third-party apps are the thing that make this the device that is as powerful as it is for me. Now, what about the Vision Pro? Of course, the apps on this thing, it's day 2. So maybe I shouldn't expect a lot. But at the same time, we know the relationship that Apple has with its developers. And I'm not sure that this is going to be a device that I'm going to be able to use in the same way that I use my iPad. It's not a guarantee. Apple's done it before, but it's not a guarantee. So this is a good example. This is my iPad right here. I have this focus mode that I call my creative focus mode, and it is chock full of things that I use every day to make these videos. I go into Matter and I highlight the articles that I reference. I use Wikipedia to double check my work and to use it as a launching point to find other articles. I use Obsidian to refine my thoughts and develop my notes. I use Ulysses to write out my thoughts into a cohesive format. I use Freeform in order to plan out my ideas and visualize them. Now, of those apps, most of them are third-party apps. I use them all the time, and they are extremely important to these videos that you're watching right now. Now, this right here are the apps that come on Apple Vision Pro. It's great. It's really cool. I've got really cool things. But I spent an hour yesterday trying to dig through the App Store in order to figure out what there actually was on this device. And there was no Ulysses. There was no Obsidian. I didn't have OmniFocus, which is what I use for my to-do list. And I didn't have Matter. So I'm stuck here with Apple's core apps. Messages, Mail, Freeform Notes, which are great. I use all of those things. Apple TV, Safari, all of those are great. They're fantastic. But I can't use it out in the world the way that I want to, right? I can't use it in a way that lets me interact with the device the way that I want to. Even when I open the compatible apps, it's still all of the things that Apple made for this. It's great. I can view my photos. I can view my videos. I can record a voice memo. That's awesome. That's awesome. But it doesn't give me the things that are beyond what Apple envisioned this device for from the beginning. And Apple, with only so many resources, can only develop so much for it. So I spend quite a bit of time in Safari. I don't know that it'll load in the middle of the woods, but I spend a lot of time reading on here. That's great. That's awesome. But if I can't take notes on it using Matter, then what's the point for me? I spend a ton of time in Photos. Photos is a great example because it has all the videos that I take on my phone, which is what I shoot these videos on. But if I can't edit them on Final Cut or a third-party app like CapCut, what's the point? Keynote is great, but I don't make presentations anymore. Music is awesome. TV is awesome. The entertainment experiences are incredible on this device. But the productivity, I'm not sure is quite there yet. And that's a little disappointing. So that's all to say, maybe the apps are going to have to go away. And whenever I spend my time out in the world, my dream of having a multi-pad lifestyle of my apps in a productive space in the way I want it anywhere, even on the side of a mountain, maybe it's just going to have to be an iPad. So it's a bit of a shame, right? I can bring my Apple Vision Pro with me up a mountain and I can go to this beautiful view. I can be in the real world. I can look through to the device instead of at it. But why would I do that? Literally, why would I do that? It's the question that everybody asks. Why would I need a computer? Personal computer? What's the point of that? What can I do with it? Why can I do it? Why should I do it, I guess? And right now, there's not a really good reason. So I guess I'm sticking with the iPad.